Salt is essential. It's in our food, our streets,
154,000 tons of salt so far this season.
and even naturally floating around in our bodies. It's everywhere and in everyone. It's important to our very existence, but how much is too much? How much salt can one person consume before their organs shut down? What if someone tested that limit? For science. And of course someone did, as about 10 years ago, YouTuber LA Beast decided that drinking an entire gallon of Tabasco sauce and throwing it back up was a good decision for his audience to watch. Now, if you know anything about his channel, you know that he's rather fond of bad ideas and pushing the limits on said bad ideas. But this stunt in particular was not only the one that was a textbook example of something to not try at home, but proved to be a rather unique opportunity for a science lesson on how something as simple as salt can push your body to the brink of a salty death. According to FDA guidelines, the recommended amount of daily sodium intake should be less than 2.3 grams, which is about a tablespoon of salt. If we extrapolate this recommendation to that gallon of Tabasco sauce in the video, we end up with a little over 269 grams of sodium, which is over 100 times the daily recommended intake. And yes, that is a lot of salt, but how close to danger was he actually? There's a certain concept in toxicology that measures the specific amount of a certain substance, called the LD50. LD stands for lethal dose, with the LD50 being the amount of a substance that, if given all at once, causes the death of 50% of a group of test subjects in an experiment. But why does that matter here? The lethal dose for a human being is estimated to be a little less than 3 grams of salt per kilogram of body weight. So with that information, look at these two piles of salt next to one another. Can you tell the difference between the LD50 pile and the amount of sodium that was in that 1 gallon jug of Tabasco? I mean, I certainly can't tell the difference. Can you? What's interesting is that there's actually less than a 5-gram difference of sodium between these two piles of salt, which means that if LA Beast didn't throw up that sauce at the end of the video, there's actually a good chance that we'd never see him alive after this stunt.
Whoa, you can smell the vinegar.
So, what's happening on the inside of his body? All of the cells in your body have these outer layers called plasma membranes, which are permeable to water diffusion, but have some restrictions and requirements for solutes to pass through. By using these receptors and channels that are embedded in this membrane, cells can pick and choose which compounds and solutes it allows into and out of this intracellular space of the cell, allowing it to hold on to the important stuff and expel whatever it doesn't need. So the cell can control the flow of stuff, but it can't really control the flow of water. Depending on the solute concentration in the intracellular fluid versus the extracellular fluid, water will move through the cell membrane to make sure that the concentrations both inside and out of the cell are relatively equal to one another. This exchange sounds harmless in theory, but the situation makes the cell very sensitive to the free water concentration of its environment. It's all about balance. If the surrounding solution's solute and water concentrations are not in equilibrium with the concentrations of the cell's cytosol, then free water will begin to diffuse either into or out of the cell automatically. If the cell encounters a hypotonic environment, like if LA Beast decided to drink a ton of water for example, then that water would begin to diffuse into the cell and the cell would begin to swell up. If you were to drink too much water, the internal osmotic pressure would then become a little bit too much, which could then cause cellular rupture known as lysis. Similarly, if you drink 3+ liters of Tabasco sauce, it means that there's a higher concentration of dissolved salt outside of the cell in the extracellular fluid. Remember, water then diffuses out of the cell to balance the concentrations, and the cell will begin to dehydrate and shrink, which then causes catastrophic damage to the mechanisms responsible for cellular metabolism. Had LA Beast not violently thrown up the contents of his stomach immediately after consuming the Tabasco sauce, his body would have quickly started to shut down due to the rapid onset of symptoms caused by the acute sodium poisoning. When your body is hit with an overwhelming dose of sodium all at once, it increases the sodium osmolality, or in other words, the solute concentration in your blood. Your cells are meant to be kept in a safe range and can handle anywhere from 135 to 145 milliequivalents per liter. But given how much sauce LA Beast drank during his video, I wouldn't be surprised if this number hit the 160s or 170s for a few moments before he threw up. And that's not even the worst part. Remember how your cells shrank and became this deflated version of themselves to restore concentration balance when too much sodium was introduced into their environment? Well, picture that happening to a ton of the neurons that are located in your brain, causing the blood vessels to tear and causing intracranial hemorrhages in multiple locations. And obviously, these are all horrible things that can happen to the body as a result of too much salt consumption. But remember that when dealing with LD50 levels, anything can kill you if enough of it is consumed. And you think that such a close brush with something so dangerous would put things into perspective for LA Beast, but as of today, there are 200 plus videos of similar stunts over the course of 10 plus years that were uploaded after this Tabasco sauce video. The definition of built different.